Straight No Chaser. This here is episode 31. We got a very special guest for you guys today, my friend Celia Balfour. So she's going to talk to us a little bit today about being part of Suffolk in the City, which is kind of this broadcast we have here at Suffolk affiliated with NECN. And she's going to talk a little bit about her work working as a field reporter there and creating packages for NECN. And she's also going to talk a little bit about sports journalism, which is something she's very interested in pursuing as a career. Then after that, we're going to mention our topics like we usually do. We're going to touch a bit on the Super League and a little bit about women in sports media. So to start off the interview, Celia, how's it going? So what kind of drew you into journalism? What kind of drew you into broadcasting and reporting? Like what inspired you to take up this major and pursue this career?
So honestly, I think my love of sports kind of shaped that whole thing for me. I've grown up with sports, as we'll get into later. My dad's from London. He's a big soccer fan, so I grew up with that. My mom's from Boston. And he's the sports nut. So he kind of adopted all the Boston sports, which what a time to adopt the Boston sports, because I think they were married in 92. So it was right before the Patriots, like they were kind of bad. Can I swear?
Mm-hmm.
Shitty? Or shitty?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. I figured. Yeah. So the Patriots were shit. And then he married my mom. And then like a couple years later, the dynasty was born, at least the Patriots dynasty. So I kind of just grew up, kind of watching sports instead of like Disney on, Saturday and Sunday mornings with my dad. And then I kind of got into journalism with a really cool class in high school. It was like a morning news show, and it was like first period. And you could just make the like morning news that would be shown in second period every single day. So that was kind of cool. I kind of like, I won't say ran the show there, but I kind of like was the first person to actually like be like, wow, this is cool. Like I kind of want to do this. Everyone kind of just like did it to like be fun, or like it seemed like an easy class. And then like a few people when I was like around 16 was like, you're the next Aaron Andrews, or you can be the next Aaron Andrews. And I was like, that would be really cool actually, like on the sidelines with all these guys. So that's what kind of drove me into that. And that's what actually brought me to Suffolk and Boston, just in general, was just I wanted to be in the best sports town in America. And then as I went on into college, I'm a senior now, I kind of grew a bigger appreciation for just journalism in general, how much it's needed, especially in, democracy. But yeah, I don't know, like I think it was just gradual over time. I realized that I was like, what a cool job to just be talking about sports, and get paid for it. And then I realized like there's so many other things that I can talk about and do and use my voice, and I don't have to sit in a cubicle all day. And that's a great thing about being a reporter is you're everywhere. So yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. So, what was it about Suffolk specifically that, I mean, I know it's known for being I mean, it's right in the city and it's also a good school for journalism, but was there anything particular that drew you to coming to Suffolk? Like, was it specifically, did you know already about Suffolk in the city and Studio 73, or was that something you found out about after um, being part of the school, like after committing?
So I honestly, it's a blur. When I was going through my college application process, I knew just in my heart that I wanted to leave South Carolina and go to Boston. There was other cities like I applied to Hofstra,
Hmm.
New York, and some schools in Chicago because I just wanted to be in a big city. But Boston was where like I knew I wanted to be. And if I'll be completely honest, I didn't have the best grades in high school. I was very much like average, I guess, like on the better side of average and grade wise,
Hmm.
but I was very involved in all sorts of stuff, theater, sports. So it just kind of seemed like a really good fit for me. And because of like that situation, I actually was surprised when, and I hear this a lot with Suffolk students, like if I had a nickel for every time I heard this from Suffolk students, I'd probably be able to pay my tuition. Everyone's like, I chose Suffolk because they're so good with financial aid and like scholarships. So I got some good scholarships. And I remember the day that I got accepted into Suffolk. I was like at a play rehearsal I think in the fall or the spring, probably the spring. And I call my mom and I'm like, Mom, I got into Suffolk in Boston. She was like, oh yeah, that's where your cousin went. Like we had not even like taught. I did the whole process by myself. Like I think I toured one school, which was University of South Carolina, and that was it. I never toured Suffolk. I hadn't been to Boston in at least 8 years since I had applied to Suffolk. And I'm like, Mom, like I'm going. And she was like, no, we'll figure it out. I'm like, no, like I'm going. But I didn't know anything. I knew I wanted to do broadcast. I applied as a broadcast journalism major and a theater minor, but I didn't know about Studio 73, and I definitely didn't know about like NECN or Suffolk in the City. I
You
found
say
out.
NECN, not NECN. Is that how you
Oh my
say it?
God, yeah, I always do that. NECN.
Oh,
I
I
want to
didn't
work
know
at
how to
NECN.
say it.
I want to work at NECN one day. That's something. Um, but yeah,
Wait,
so I
what
didn't
does
know
it, what does it
about
stand for exactly? Sorry.
what
What does it stand
NECN,
for exactly? Yeah,
New England Cable Network.
that's what I thought. Yeah.
Yeah, I always
Okay.
say NECN, and people are like, "You say it so funny." I'm like, "That's just like because I watch NECN more than I watch NECN sometimes, or at least before I was kind of a student correspondent." But I think I found out about the Suffolk Sports Report in the studio my freshman year, and I got involved with that, working with Jacob Toby. I don't know, were you in the Zoom the other day with Devin McCourty?
I wanted to go to that
Yeah,
actually,
it
but
was
I wasn't
really
able because I
cool.
was hosting. I think I was hosting an event for SUFC actually during that.
Yeah, it was very cool. So I remember like Jacob Toby being in the studio, being like that it guy, and now he's like really successful and like doing exactly what Jerry and Dan Janig, like all of our professors want us to do. Um, Sean Cushing, Josh DePeel, who is one of the best in the game right now at Suffolk. He did Suffolk in the City last semester, so we kind of did the Suffolk
He has
Sports
his own
Report.
podcast too, right?
Yeah, Best of Bean Town. I was on their podcast like a month ago, and
Oh,
it's with
nice.
Chris Sliwa and James Sampson, and they basically just do all sports because if you know anything about those guys, it's all sports.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, so it's good, it's fun. And then Suffolk in the City, I think maybe my sophomore year, I started to see like older people do it. I'm pretty sure you can do it at any age, but I think your chances of getting picked for it, which I can like talk about the process of applying as well, are a little higher if you're, a little bit more experienced and have like the better packages. So it's a great opportunity, and it's awesome that Suffolk can offer that to their students.
Yeah, and they're like Suffolk in the Cities, like a segment, right, on NECN.
Yeah,
It's
so
like
when we're in
affiliated.
season, we try to do it every week. Usually it's every Friday, but for some reason, I can't remember why, we changed it to Mondays. So usually it's every Monday, 7:45 a.m. You got to get there an hour before. Sometimes you're setting up your own cameras. Um, it's cool because it's your first like real life experience. You have like producers talking in your ear. You get to like watch. Well, Jerry always says don't watch like the screen because you can like see them like introing you. He's like,
Yeah.
don't look at it, like look away. But yeah, it's really cool. And they'll just be like, all right, you're going live in 10, blah blah blah, and then like someone will cue you, and you're like, or hopefully
Yeah.
you're like, good morning, I'm doing this today. But yeah, it's really cool, and it's awesome that we get to do that. Jerry, I think, said this year is our 13th year of doing it, which I can't believe.
Wow.
Well,
Hmm.
That's pretty cool. Has he been here for all
Wow.
13 of it?
Mike.
Yeah, Jerry is who started Suffolk in the City. I don't want to say he started it, but he's the one that like was the like kind of the founder within Suffolk of that. So he's like, this is my 13th year. He showed me a picture of him on it. One of the first years is like, he just looks so different. It's so funny to think about it. I'm like, we were like babies. We were probably in middle school still.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
what topics are covered in Suffolk in the City?
That's a great question. So I don't know like how much news y'all watch, but
Too much,
everything that I
probably.
see on the news now, it's like COVID, vaccines. It used to be like COVID, Trump, like, Black Lives Matter, or like it used to be the Derek Chauvin trial, but thank God that's over, and, well, it's not
Yeah.
completely
over in
over.
a good way.
Yeah, yeah. Well, 6 more weeks until his sentencing. We'll see what happens. But
Yeah.
so with Suffolk in the City, it's kind of like a little frustrating sometimes because they want you to do, they want the college voice. They want you to be like basically their student correspondents and being like, this is happening on the college campuses. And they always say that. But you can do anything from that. Obviously, in the last year, it's been a lot of COVID, a lot of Suffolk plus COVID stories. And sometimes, depending on what's in the news, you can kind of pitch your own stories. And that's the thing, too. You pitch around 3 stories every week when you're going the week before, which is nice because you get some options. And like I've pitched a few things that are my interests, and whatever they choose, they choose. But it's hard because, if you're like a real life reporter, you get a story pitch that morning and you have to finish that story like by 5 that day. And so when you pitch a story on Monday for the following Monday, you have to make sure that it's still going to be relevant enough. So it's kind of difficult to make sure that they're relevant and like general enough. So that's the case. But it's still like a challenging aspect that helps you like learn a little bit and the relevancy of all your stories that you do.
I think that's also an interesting point too, that like you can have 3 different stories that you submit, and then the producer either picks the one that they like or picks a completely different story that you didn't even submit. So it kind of like gives you a bit of the culture that you'll be exposed to like later on down the line.
Yeah, I've seen some of this, like not through Suffolk in the City, but I've seen so many like local journalism stories of like someone reporting on. Do you guys know Dan Janig? You might know him, Alex.
I think so, yeah.
Yeah, he's a reporter in Rhode Island. He's an anchor in Rhode Island for Channel 10, I believe, NBC. And there's like so many bloopers of him, and there was like one story. It was like a very silly, floofy story about like cats. And he was just like, oh, it was about a girl that was like walking her cat, and like he was like, why do we have to talk about
Yeah,
this?
say, how does that make it into the fucking local news?
Like it's just, and like you
It's
have
not
to
what's
do stuff
going
like
on.
that, or like
Yeah.
possum in tree like lands on child. Well, that's kind of an interesting story, but like it's like random stuff, and you have to take that and make it interesting because you can't always choose. You can't choose the news,
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so that's a very interesting like aspect of it too.
For sure.
Do you get
No, that's
do you get to travel like around the city and the outer parts of the city for your stories?
So basically, what the whole package is me going live for my intro. Like, hi, I'm live from here. Well, it's usually outside of Suffolk Studio 73.
Okay.
I play my package, which I have the whole week before to shoot, edit, get interviews for, and then submit to them. And then that same day where I go live, they play the package and then they cue back into my ear and I say, this is what happened, blah, 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 signing off, Suffolk in the City, Celia Balfour. But the funny thing is, the reason why I went on Marathon Monday as opposed to when I was originally supposed to go 2 weeks ago is because Jerry was like, let's do something different. Let's go to the finish line. Like your story's about the marathon. And sometimes the producers don't get your emails on time, which nobody is very like great with emails all the time. So it was ended up being too late and I just had to go from Beantown. So like stuff like that happens all the time. I readjusted my entire story to go at the finish line and that just never worked out. So, but in terms of like story gathering, like when I'm putting together my package, it just depends like what my story's on. Like Hannah Mitchell, she did one the other day or the other week where it's about graduation at Fenway. So she was at Fenway and she was around traveling there. In terms of interviewing people, most people like to stick to Zoom, but I've traveled around a little bit to get a few interviews and I've knocked on doors in the North End restaurants to try and get connections that I remember from. So you're doing like real life work.
Yeah.
You're truly on your own. You don't get any really insight from like Jerry or the producers until you submit that package. So
When you go, sorry, but what I was gonna say, when you do like field work, like, cause I saw like your last 2 or 3 ones. I saw like the one you did on like Suffolk students like reacting to like with dealing with COVID and that kind of stuff. I saw that one, and that one I get like you can kind of like interview and like people on campus, but like when you go out to like interview like people in the general public, or just when you go out to report, like how many people usually like come with you in the crew for field reporting? Like
You're all on your own.
oh really?
Yeah. Well,
What
unless you
about
wanna.
like for the filming part though? Doesn't like someone come to do camera work?
No, that's you. You have to do camera,
Really?
editing. You have to set up your own interviews. I mean, if you wanted to, I'm sure you could ask like a fellow Suffolk in the City reporter or like a fellow journalism major or just anyone to do camera work. Because, like I said earlier, I don't know if we were recording or not. I'm not the best or the most confident with cameras. I like to be in front of the camera and I like to be behind the screen in terms of editing.
Yeah.
But I'm not very like it's been like 2.5 years since production one. Like I'm a little fuzzy up there, so it's hard sometimes.
I just thought of like the best friendship that could be harbored.
What was that?
A journalism major and a film major should just become best friends in Suffolk.
Yeah, like I remember one of the first projects I did for broadcast last semester. I didn't know like how to use it. I know how to use a camera, but I was like, it's been so long and I'm already super stressed about it. It's my first project and this teacher's really tough. So I asked one of my friends who's a film major to help me with the camera and the interview aspect. And like it's just easier. And I've learned when I'm talking to multimedia reporters, especially in local news, that if you're a reporter that's like not in the studio, you're usually out there on your own, filming, editing, writing your script all in one. So that's kind of what we do for Suffolk in the City, which is cool. It's stressful though, because whenever you're going that week, all of us have said, the three of us that are going, the four of us that are going this semester, we're like, every time it's our turn for Suffolk in the City, I legit like can't focus on schoolwork because it's so much pressure. Like,
Yeah,
like
I know what you mean.
school's important, but like this is going to like producers and it's going on TV. Like this needs to be good. So we like drop everything kind of and just focus on that.
Also, it's more like what you're interested in your career, because I feel like when I create articles and like videos to go with the articles for the Suffolk Journal, I'm just like I get like passionate about it,
Mhm.
and I'm just like, all right, yeah, fuck these like core classes I have to take. Like I'd rather do this shit.
Yeah, that's exactly it. Like, ugh. Are you still
Yeah.
taking core classes? You're a junior, right?
I put some off, so I have like one or two left.
Mm.
But yeah, I just took my CI this past semester. I was supposed
Oh
to
my
get that
God.
freshman year.
I can't even remember what mine was.
I took
But,
Dreams, Demons, and Dynamic.
That sounds cool.
I'm taking creating the dream team. That one's actually cool because mine's a business one. I wanted to take some business classes because I figured that could just help with like branding yourself as a journalist.
I kind of want to look up because I was actually just on my Suffolk portal thing. I kind of want to look up what my creativity and innovation was. It's sad that I don't remember what it was.
Sven, you should take, if you have like a free elective, you should take retirement planning. It's actually like for people in CAS, it's actually not a bad class to take.
Yeah.
Just to map out your financial future.
Yeah, that's like, yeah. Really
kind of a boring point, I just thought I'd mention.
I feel like you'd be the only CAS student surrounded by a bunch of SBS kids.
I'm fine with that. If I didn't do journalism, honestly, I'd probably go into advertisement and marketing. So
yeah,
they go hand in hand sometimes. Like sports marketing is like up and coming right now. I have a lot of people doing that. Okay, I took riddles of identity. Like what?
Riddles of identity.
Yeah, and it was basically like a class where we just watched like a bunch of different like Netflix and like short films and talked about like what it means to the viewer and like what it means to be like a person in society. It was like
sounds very philosophical.
Yeah.
Why do I feel like every CI offered at Suffolk is just like meant to be attended high?
Yeah.
Bro, I wouldn't be surprised if some of the professors attended those.
I remember, okay, now that class is coming back to me. I remember one time we were talking about this like story and our professor was like, okay, let's map the story out. So like the king or the princess is in trouble, the king goes to rescue her, someone, and then he like writes something on the board and we're like, what's he writing? And he just wrote fuck shit up. And I was like, what? I was like, okay, in a nutshell.
He was a CAS professor.
Yeah, he was definitely like someone that I wouldn't be surprised if he was stoned.
Yeah, literally.
Maybe you guys have Jeff McConnell for a philosophy class?
No, I had Jeff Johnson actually. He's
okay.
Abby and I are in Abby and I are in the business school, so we can't actually relate. We probably wouldn't have many of the professors you
Yeah.
two would have.
Yeah, I'm a data analytics major and he's a finance major, so like we're like totally different college world than you two.
Well, kind of the
Like you
same.
hate yourselves. No, I'm just kidding.
Alright.
I want a guest to come on and tell us that we should hate ourselves.
Data's cool because I can work in anything with that.
Well,
Yeah.
actually, with journalism, you could work in a lot because I could work for businesses too as PR, which I also
Yeah, and
would
like
totally do.
communication.
Economist.
Yeah,
The Economist. Or
that would be
Bloomberg.
cool if they fucking accept me, accept my
That'd be cool if
application.
any internships would like answer me.
Yeah. See, I don't really
Yeah.
cover. I don't
Got
really
my fair share of
cover.
that.
I'm not like a business finance reporter. I cover more like politics and police, government, and then war. So like and sports. Those are like my things.
The Super League.
Yeah, like mostly soccer. Which actually I was gonna say, which sports did you play in high school?
I played soccer. I played soccer my entire life. I state champ freshman year, pretty cool. And then I did crew or rowing. I called it crew. I
That's
think
cool.
it's more rowing here. I did that my junior year. Oh, I also played tennis my freshman year. So that was all for the school, like sports that I did.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's cool. So, this question's like, I don't know if you have a good answer for this one, but like, what drew you to specifically sports journalism and not like sports management or sports medicine and like kinesiology and that kind of vibe? Like, what was it about the journalist aspect over like the more physical part or the more like managerial part?
I think there's like a multiple like levels to that. I think the first thing is kind of what I talked about earlier. Like I always wanted to be like Aaron Andrews and like on the field talking with these
Yeah.
guys. Like I could do that with like sports medicine. I could be like stretching them out, but like I want to, you know. But one thing that like I haven't gotten into yet is like I'm a theater major, and
Yeah.
I kind of discovered my love for that very late into high school. Actually, right when I stopped doing soccer for the school, I was
Yeah.
like, I need something to do, and I realized I was like, wow, I love the aspect of storytelling. My dad's a very funny, witty guy, and I kind of realized that I don't want to call myself say I'm funny, but like I like making people laugh. I like telling stories. I think that's really important. Um, so I think that aspect of storytelling, and I think it's cool because you can do that with print. You can do that with broadcast and invest. Like I love my family on Sunday nights. Well, we usually eat dinner like together as much as we can at the dinner table, and we usually watch TV as we're doing it. But we usually watch like Sunday Night Football, but we watch 60 Minutes all the
Oh
time. That
yeah.
was like our family thing. And then when COVID was a thing, we would watch 60 Minutes, but my mom's like, put on Lester Holt. I love my Lester Holt, and we just like watch the news together. So I love that aspect of like investigative journalism and just
Yeah.
telling people stories that like haven't been told yet. Like, and I think that gives you a certain power, but it also is such an honor at the same time to be able
No,
to
I
have
agree.
do that. So
It's
I'm
definitely way
actually,
cooler than massaging Ronaldo's legs before overtime.
yeah, those
Yeah,
shaved
definitely.
legs. He probably waxes them.
Probably.
For speed.
So
Or speed. I think he's just
we're
a pussy.
I actually have a good question. So, have you enjoyed covering female sports as well? Like as well as male sports, and like how can you engage the public more with women's sports or as an industry? What do you think about that?
So that is a good question because I think in the last few weeks and months, that's been a very big like topic, at least on Twitter. Like I love getting my sports like information and conversations on Twitter. With the NCAA kind of like scandal that
oh
happened
yeah.
a few weeks ago with the women's locker room.
Yeah, and
That
everything.
happened from, an athlete, going to TikTok and like going to social media and doing that. So I think social media should be utilized more, and it shouldn't be as like belittled as some people, because everyone's like social media ruined the generation, but like when you're a journalism major, that's our future. um,
Yeah.
but I think for me, like I grew up huge soccer fan. The women's team my entire life has been so much better than the men's team.
More popular as well.
Oh, way more
And because they're good, and
Yeah.
and like when the World Cup or the Olympics come around, I follow England for men's just because that's what I grew up watching. And they're no better than, well, they're a little bit better than, yeah, they are better than the American team.
Yeah.
But
They're definitely better.
but they haven't won a title in or cup in like
New
years.
Guinea.
Won the
New
World
Guinea's
Cup since
better than the American team.
But the American team, like females, that's what I grew up watching. So I love them. That's my favorite sport to watch, like
Yeah.
female wise and just in general. But I think something that's interesting that I don't know if any of you guys like thought about. There's this one tweet that like sticks in my mind all the time. Every time I think like women's sports, it was a couple months ago, and this one girl, she said, if you want to support Kobe's legacy, support women's sports. And I was like, that is something that I don't think a lot of people realized until he passed away, that he was such an advocate and supporter of women's sports. I mean, everyone came out and said like hashtag girl dad, and he was a girl dad. And I mean, that guy was at so many U.S. women's soccer games, so many college basketball games. I mean, like he had what is it, a school? Do I call it a school or a camp?
Like an academy.
Academy. Yeah, there you go. Like, and he coached his own daughter, and that's something that I can relate to because my dad was my coach the whole life. So I think the people that people respect, like Kobe Bryant, could do their part by speaking up. But I also think that as a journalist, you just have to keep talking about it, and you have to go to social media and raise awareness for just simple games, and then the issues and the discrepancies in the pay. And people say there would be revenue in women's sports if people like watched it.
There's certainly, I think, when it comes to women's sports, I don't know about the rest of you guys, but like Serena Williams, U.S. women's soccer team, and UConn women basketball.
Yeah,
I think those are like the three that I think like most of America has probably seen, and I haven't really watched outside of those three. Like, I was upset the UConn women lost this year because
it's actually becoming. Oh yeah. Yeah. It's actually becoming though actually another one that's emerging more with women that you wouldn't expect is like MMA and fight sports. There's some really good female MMA fighters like Joanna Jędrzejczyk, for example, and of course like we had like Ronda Rousey and stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah. So
I mean,
that's like
you're right with that. Like
Holly Holmes, Amanda Nunes, like there's been a ton of them.
I used to have a crush on Hope Solo, and then that story came
who
out
doesn't?
that she obliterated her 200-pound nephew. I was like, all right.
So I'm wondering like what your take on like getting advertisement involved, like to popularize the sport more, because I ultimately think the way women's sports gain popularity is gonna be dependent on women vocalizing that they need to become more popular. Because once women adopt them as like the main sport they watch, men will follow and actually watch the sport afterwards. But I do think like the big change is going to come from women in the community like popularizing it. I don't know how you feel about that.
Kind of off that, do you think, I mean, when you're watching just TV, and it doesn't have to be like ESPN, but I've noticed it a lot more recently, you ever see those commercials that just like give you goosebumps and like make you want to like run through a brick wall just about like sports? And sometimes they combine like different sports or different athletes. But there was one that ESPN put out last year, and it was all these amazing moments in sports recently. And it was like, sports, we miss it too. And it just made me like so emotional and hype. And I think that's how you have to kind of tailor to the public. If you want someone to pay attention, you have to kind of tug at their heartstrings and get them fired up.
Yeah.
Like if I watch Serena Williams in slow motion, black and white, like I'm gonna be like, fuck yeah, girl, queen, let's go. Like that girl won freaking I think it was Wimbledon or the Australian Open. She won it pregnant.
Yeah,
isn't that nuts?
Anyone could do that.
Yeah. Like Venus was good, and then Serena was just like dominant.
She's a powerhouse. Yeah. It's incredible.
I
remember. You guys remember when Tom Brady won his 7th? That everyone was like, everyone's talking about Tom Brady being like the GOAT of the GOATs, but no one's talking about Serena Williams having like 17 or like 20 something championships. Obviously, there's like 3 or 4 tennis tournaments a year, so that the ratio is a little off there, but people don't talk about that. So I thought that was interesting that people
Wait, is she the most decorated champion in all of like modern sports? I don't know who is, to be honest.
That's kind of a subjective thing,
Is
but
it
it came
Isn't
out.
It
Tiger
depends
Woods
on
up
the
there?
Tiger Woods.
I was thinking either Michael Phelps or Serena Williams were the two I
Let's
was
Google it.
I think Tiger's up
I
there.
say most decorated athlete of like past
Imagine it's like Lance Armstrong.
of
He
today.
lost like all his Tour de France
Caitlyn
and stuff.
Jenner. Most yeah, I see most
That's
Bro,
decorated.
isn't that
bullshit,
crazy
Did
that
you
the
guys see
thing?
Icarus?
It's
Everyone-
crazy that. Wait, I was gonna say it's crazy that the sport where people dope the most is fucking cycling. Like that's not
Michael
even.
Phelps came up.
I thought
Oh,
it was
is it Michael Phelps?
Well, it
That makes
says
sense.
top 10. So this website is from the Impact. Oh, it's a school newspaper of Mercy College since 1970. So I don't know. We'll see. But Tom Brady's in there.
Federer
Oh, Usain Bolt.
Federer beats out Serena Williams.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
And, like decorated
Yeah. So he
status
has,
or like in championships. Usain Bolt was one of them.
Oh,
Serena,
yeah. There's
Simone
Tiger at
Biles.
6.
I'm surprised more people don't watch, especially young girls.
Oh,
Simone
fuck. Bill
Biles.
Russell's number one on there.
actually my mom and I during what Olympic Games was it? Was it 2016? I think it was
Prob-
2016. With U.S. women's gymnastics, we were like glued to the TV.
Oh,
Simone
yeah.
Biles,
Cool.
Allie Raisman. I forget the other girls' names, but like that team was unbelievably
the
good.
men's gymnastic team was really good too. That was just a good year for U.S.
Yeah,
gymnastics.
But the women's team took home like multiple golds.
Yeah.
I want to
Yeah.
say like Simone took home like 3 golds.
Yeah,
at
she's
Olympic
insane.
Games.
Yeah,
That was
she's
awesome.
great. And like she's been doing a lot of publicity recently too. And another thing to think about, which is like not to like change subjects, but that was very close to the time of the gymnastics like sex scandal.
Yeah.
Oh,
I
yeah,
do remember
it
that.
was,
I
I think it
So a
came
lot of
out
people are
after
probably-
the Olympics. if I'm
Not to say like to get people to watch you should like have a sex scandal
You
or
should
like
have
some sort of
scandals,
scandal,
yeah.
but it's kind of gets the people going, as Kanye West would say. I think that was
Yeah.
him.
Yeah, it was.
Well, actually, that does kind of lead me a bit into my like the next subject we're going into. So, you as someone, Celia, who's like trying to pursue a career in broadcast journalism, sports broadcasting. So, like I mentioned before we started recording, like it's a more relatively recent thing that a lot more women have been able to get into the sports broadcasting world. And I was just wanted to hear like your take on kind of some of the challenges women face and merging into the sports broadcasting world, and kind of like how you think they can overcome a lot of these problems that they'd face, and a lot of the stigma still, because it's still not that common. It's becoming more and more common, thankfully, but it's especially in like international sports, it's not as common.
Mm.
And even in like big American leagues as well. Honestly, like NFL, that's like a very recent thing.
Well, you know Rebecca Lowe, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so like she's my like idol in England,
Oh.
but I can't think of any other woman. She's the best in the league right now. But I think like to answer that question, and I'll like go off in a few different like points. I think you kind of have to look at it as it's not just like a women in sports thing. It's a women in the workforce type thing, which like sounds so like 19s, like 60s, 70s, 80s, and like 90s, but you know, sometimes it's hard to talk about, you know, the harassment that you face, the like verbally, sexually, and then also just being belittled, like wears down on someone's mind, like no matter male or female, but we're more subjected to it just because we're female. So that's an issue, I think, just in the workforce in general. But I think with sports makes it even more difficult, is because sports are like something that people think of like as a man's game, especially professional sports. Like we were just talking, like a lot of women athletes aren't really noticed or appreciated for their greatness. So I think it's also being taken seriously. Like I remember in high school, I was one of the only like girls that could like talk to guys about sports. And like honestly, sometimes I knew more than them. And some people find that really cool, and some people find it threatening or like emasculating. So like I don't know, like there's two different like levels to it, but you know, like I just think that they're not worried about women like taking their jobs, but maybe they're maybe a little bit worried, but don't want to admit that they could maybe do it just as good, if not better than them. Because it doesn't matter if you're a male or a female. If you know your shit, you know your shit. And we talked about that earlier. Another thing that's hard, like I said, with the like whole being sexualized as a woman, like I just want to talk sports. Like don't comment on how tight my dress is. Don't comment on my legs showing. Like you wouldn't do that to a man. Like you don't comment on Tony Romo's blazer and how tight that is. Like I don't know. He was the first person that popped up in my head, but I don't know. I think the way to fix that is just to like really, I mean, just in general, if you're going to be a journalist, you really have to have thick skin. If you're going to be on TV, you have to have really thick skin, because I've seen a lot of girls that I follow on Twitter and like very local, small communities get messages from viewers saying like, "Oh, you're great. We love the news show, but like maybe you should like do this a little bit more, like hike up your neckline or wear like a less fitted dress." And she's like, "Dude, like I'm just trying to bring you the news. Like, is that really what you got from that? Like, that's not my job to like please you."
And honestly, the thing that always surprises me is like people are so stupid. Like the way people think always surprises me, because it's like you're thinking so surface level. It's not like you're appreciating the person's character at all. It's like it's just like something that would obviously offend. It's like a lot of times when I'm in social situations and someone says something like that, it's like an instant cringe moment where I'm like, you don't even realize what you said.
Did that just come out of your mouth?
What? Yeah, right.
Like, really? Did you just say that?
Yeah.
Like with social media,
so
like, there's a lot
different...
less thinking before speaking nowadays.
It's so fucked. No, it's always been that way though. I feel like it might have been even worse back in the day, but like it's just so apparent now. So when people still do it, I'm like, what do you like? Why? Just that's wrong, or you should anyway.
There was less accountability back in the day, and so now like people are more. So there's the there's like the issue of people being able to hide behind their screen, but then also the issue or like the subject of like that's on the internet, like that's
look anything
exactly
up.
You know. So I don't know. Like I don't know. I mean, my advice to anyone and what I try to do, never actually been hated on really to an extent in terms of me trying to do my job as a journalist. I mean, I've had experienced other things with a waitress. And I used to be a referee, so that was.
Me too. That you get.
So that was
that really gets your skin tough being a
You guys get yelled at by like parents.
Oh my god, the parents the parents are so much worse than the coaches.
They say the most unbelievable, outrageous insults. I'm like, how are you setting an example for your children?
I hope that's me someday.
Oh my god, I do miss it kind of, because now I would like having that. I used to do that. That was my first job ever. I did that from when I was 13, from when I was 18, and left for college.
Same.
So if I came back and did that now, and someone tried to fuck with me, like, shit, I don't know. And especially I got that Boston like toughness now. I don't know.
Yeah.
We'll see. Maybe that wouldn't be good, but if so,
yeah,
I mean,
but they can't really do shit because you're the ref. I've actually had to give a coach a card before.
Yeah.
That's how outrageous some of them were. Like I had to give a coach a yellow card because he kept just like he was insulting the other coach. He was
all I
literally
can
just
imagine
like,
is that coach was in like short shorts and he was like pointing fingers at you.
A lot of times they're like beer guts, like where I'm from, it's like beer guts, like weird gray, half black beards, and like fucking Lions t-shirts.
Yeah, and he told the other coach, he was like, "Go back to England, like you don't know what
That's
you're
literally
doing
my
here."
dad said. Like someone told my dad to go back on the banana boat back to England.
Banana boat.
Just ignored it.
Isn't banana boat like a sunscreen brand?
I think like they were saying he was like bananas or like crazy. I don't remember. I was like 12.
That must be a South Carolina.
My dad.
Banana boats are like super fast. I think they're
they're like
Caribbean.
They're like we have them where I'm from. They're almost like they look like little rescue boats. Like when you see like sea rescues, like the little motor on the back.
It's one of those.
I'm not really sure how that's a British insult, but
the one thing I do like about this is kind of related, but not really, because it like in opposite of like the offensiveness of some people in sports, like there's also great banter that goes on between teams.
Gosh.
Like Like the chirping that goes back and forth between fan bases is probably one of my favorite things about sports.
You guys don't like. I believe that Alex is the only like really big soccer fan here.
Well, I'm not really a big soccer fan, but Alex got me into being an Arsenal fan.
Yeah,
so, like,
we
now
can
I
talk
follow.
about that later. I'm gonna convert
I'm
you
pretty
into being a
new.
Tottenham fan.
Yeah,
I
no,
know.
convert anybody into a team that doesn't have history.
Let me say one thing. I love Boston sports, but there is nothing like British banter when it comes to soccer fans.
Yeah.
Actually, Alex, do you want to hear a really funny chant that I just discovered like recently from Tottenham fans?
Let me see.
All right,
I probably heard it.
excuse my I don't have like a singing voice. It's like a chant, but it goes when I was just a little boy, my mama gave me a little toy, Arsenal fan on a string. She told me to kick his fucking head in. His fucking head in. His fucking head in. She told me to kick his fucking head in. And I'm like, they would never do that here. Like, they would allow it, I feel like.
Yeah, but Tottenham can say that, but they have a tough time winning games, huh?
You know what's the funniest part?
You know
Like,
what my favorite chant
thing,
is?
right?
If we're gonna go into chants, this is my favorite one, and it was like it wasn't even a Premier League team. It was like Norwich or something. So I guess that it was Premier League. But
At
the
one
one's like,
point, yeah.
your sister is your mother, your father is your
Your
brother.
mom. Yeah, no, it's that your sister's your mom. Your sister's your mom. Joey Barton, your sister's your mom. Yeah.
It's like the Norwich Ipswich banter.
It's
like
so gross. That one's like fucked up.
One thing,
There's like so many other ones, but that one is like your sister's your mom is like fucked up.
Yeah, your sister is your brother, your father.
We kind of like those ones.
Yeah. Well, I
That's
love
gotta
the
be
one
my
where it's like
favorite
kick
one.
his fucking head in.
Yeah. Well,
I'm not gonna want to like listen to me singing that.
and you guys won't have anything left to argue about.
One
I
thing
I know,
that makes
especially
me
after
sad,
Sunday.
in terms of banter here, as a Patriots fan, like, I remember growing up with all my family members in other parts of the U.S., the trash talk was like hardcore. But now, like, people just give up when they hear you're a Patriot. Like, people don't even bother anymore. Like, they don't,
I feel like
they
when
don't
I'm like,
trash talk back anymore. It's sad.
what would they say? Would they be like, fuck you and your mom? Like, or like personal shit? Like, what would they say?
The dumbest shit ever was the whole cheating deflate game.
For like 7 years, my family from Philly has been like, Tom Brady and Bill Belichick are cheaters. And then there's this other thing where, like, if you call Bill Belichick the winningest coach of all time, they're like, no, who's the guy at Golden State? Steve Kerr? They're like, Steve Kerr won more. It's like, yeah, they have like 72 games in a season, bro.
Exactly.
Like,
yeah, 82.
Yeah,
Actually,
82.
the best part about being a Tottenham fan is you get to go back to the black and white footage to see the last time you won the Premier League.
19 fucking one.
Yeah,
My dad was
longer ago than
1 years old.
fucking World Cup. It was 19.
If that says anything about who I am, I'm loyal and I'm fucking genuine. And Tottenham is going to shave off years of my life. 100.
Remember when Tottenham miraculously made it into the Champions League?
You remember when they miraculously made it into the fucking Super League?
We will talk about that. I just want to talk about the Champions League final real quick. I had a final that day. I was at Suffolk about to go into my final, had my shirt on, and they had like it on the TV, like the fourth floor of like Sawyer. And like no one was there. There was like one other kid. And because it was like a finals day and like no one was on campus and I couldn't go to the bar and watch it. And I will never forget when Lucas Moura knocked in that fucking 91st minute. Oh my God, last 5 minutes anyway. Winning goal. I fucking called my dad and we just started crying. And my dad, to talk about Die Hard, my dad went to the closing of White Hart Lane. He went to the Champions League final, and then he went to the opening of Tottenham Hotspur Stadium. We don't have that kind of money. Like, when Tottenham made it to the Champions League, my dad was like, Denise, you can divorce me, but I'm going to that fucking game. And he went to Madrid, and I couldn't go just because we didn't have the money. But I was like, that's the commitment that he has. Like,
yeah, that game was boring as fuck.
Wait, I have a question.
The most interesting thing was that like random ass like woman who streaked across the fucking field.
Is your dad from North London?
Yes. Yeah.
Okay, that makes sense.
Yeah, he's about 30 minutes from Tottenham.
So he's probably then like 45 minutes from Arsenal Stadium.
They're a little spread out. I don't know if you've ever go to London and you go to St. Paul's Cathedral, you guys can do that, and you go to the top, you can see Arsenal's stadium from there, and then you could, I believe, on the other side see Tottenham. So it's kind of cool. But
Yeah, I was gonna say, isn't Tottenham plays in the borough of Haringey, right?
it's very it used to, and that's why we'll talk about this with the Super League. It's a very poor part of town, but it's also very known to be Jewish, which I find interesting as well.
We're known to be Irish at Arsenal.
I'm Irish. You're also known to be into other people's fucking territory. We were there first, so North London's blue and white, baby.
Yeah, but
it's red. It's fucking red.
No, it's not.
Yeah, see, this is the thing they clown us on, Jake, which is outrageous.
We were there
They're trying
first.
to be like, our team is 10 years older. I'm like, in the 1800s,
no, it doesn't matter how old you are.
Fuck.
We were there first.
There wasn't an offside rule when you guys were winning shit.
Oh wait, I have another question.
Remember all those
this is more neutral and not posed against you. What do you think of the YouTube fan-based channels that cover soccer? Have you seen any of them, Arsenal Fan TV?
Ones that kind of do the podcast style and
but they've gained in popularity. I've noticed that. What do you think of YouTube as a platform for sports broadcasting?
I think it's a really cool idea. Me personally, I watch the games. I'm old-fashioned when it comes to that. I'm like my dad. But if I maybe after the game, if let's say I watch a game the semifinal for Tottenham to get into the Champions League, I would love to rewatch someone's reaction to that after the fact.
Yeah,
or
I get that.
Maybe not Sunday's game against Man City, but if I had an amazing game that I want to relive, it would be cool to watch another fan's reaction. And I love how they freak out. I love how authentic it is. Because I would call that more entertainment than journalism, but I still think it's a really, really cool creation. And that's funny that you mentioned that, because I have so many videos on my phone that I'll be watching the game and I'll just Snapchat my dad and I'll be like, what the fuck? And and it's so funny. So I think when I go home next and we're watching games, I'm gonna set up a little video camera. And I'll probably tell him, or I probably won't. I don't know. And I'll probably just record him because he's so funny to watch.
That's awesome.
Because it's so real. And I'm probably going to do the same thing at some point.
It's a very genuine reaction of a fan.
Well, what we enjoy
doing at all.
What we love doing is we like watching. So we'll watch the game normal and just or we'll go somewhere to watch it. And then afterwards we wait a few hours to watch Arsenal Fan TV. Just to see. That's I prefer that to just the traditional commentary even.
I actually like the watch-alongs. If I'm alone watching an Arsenal game and they have the watch-along, I'll have the game up.
Do that.
I'll just mute the game and listen to the watch-along.
I just like it. I like it legit, and I do watch some of the commentary. Actually, when we were mentioning women in commentary earlier, I really like Kelly Smith as a women's commentator, former Arsenal player, and yeah, and then all the other guys what are their names again? Alan Smith. And
I'm trying to think. I'm blanking too. Are you guys a part of any supporter clubs?
No, actually.
No. What does that even mean?
So they have Boston Spurs supporter clubs.
Oh Jesus!
Where I'm from,
that's a thing.
One of those though.
It's cool because where I'm from, I'm a part
of
there
3 people.
So I'm an OG. There's 500. Okay. Which is crazy. It's cool. You don't think, especially as a Tottenham fan in America, you feel so lonely sometimes, and it's cool to know that there's other people.
Yeah.
And there's so many of them. And
these fucking Americans always bandwagon Chelsea. I went to a Revs Chelsea game and there were more Chelsea fans.
Everyone's bandwagoning Liverpool now.
I can understand if you're from Boston and you're liking for a team why you would choose Liverpool, but you're right. It's still a very much glamorized club now.
I think it's because
nobody likes John Henry.
Yeah, John Henry owns Liverpool. That's why I
feel
it's the hit club for Boston. Well, Stan Kroenke needs to get the fuck out.
Kroenke's the fuck out. If Kroenke just fucked off to another planet, I'd be happy.
Arsenal fans, they called for his resignation.
We've done that like 3 times. The only
Dude,
club
won't
that
sell
hates
the
their
club.
owner more than us is Newcastle.
Why
The
would
only
he sell
won't-
the club, bro? It's a
he
fucking
won't sell-
gold mine.
Well,
for
the thing is,
guy.
dude, the Spotify CEO offered to buy the club with like 3 other
Oh,
artists.
thought that was
would be
Man U.
sick.
What's up?
No, he offered
I thought
to buy
that was Man
Arsenal,
U, the
too.
Spotify guy, Man
No, it
U,
was
right?
Arsenal.
Arsenal.
He's a Swedish
It might have been
dude.
No
trying to
way.
buy.
Arsenal.
Yeah,
I must have read that wrong.
but Stan Kroenke won't
And
sell
his
the
vice
club.
president resigned.
My
dude.
dad wants Jeff Bezos to buy Tottenham.
That would fit.
Wishful
That
thinking,
would-
No,
all
he's
right?
trying to
Actually,
build
that
a
wouldn't
city
fit.
on the moon. He's not buying
That
any
wouldn't
sports
fit.
teams.
I feel like
Elon Musk should buy
that would
Arsenal.
fit. That would fit like Chelsea. I feel like Jeff Bezos would fit like.
No,
Chelsea.
he needs to buy Tottenham.
Chelsea.
Their owner, Chelsea's owner, already has unlimited money because he's a criminal.
Bezos
So
doesn't
Tottenham's
strike
owner
me.
is like worth
Chelsea.
4 point something, or maybe like 40 billion.
I might hate Chelsea more than I hate Tottenham, to be honest. Only because the
Good.
interaction with Americans makes me hate Chelsea so much.
If I like,
pisses me off
that
more
was
if
me
it's
growing
Spurs.
up because I was like, I was born and like raised to hate Arsenal, but then I naturally created my own hatred for Chelsea. Growing up as a very young kid, Didier Drogba, like I fucking hated him growing up. Like I don't know,
One of the few I respect, him and Ballack.
he's such a flopper. Oh my god, he's such a little
Ballack is a
crybaby.
legend, though. Regardless of playing for Chelsea, he's just a legend for
The thing
playing.
I've noticed about Americans who support Chelsea, though, is they know absolutely nothing about soccer,
Yes.
like at all.
Yeah.
They're just like, oh, my dad's a Chelsea fan. Well,
Like John,
not a fucking fan.
I'm like thinking of someone right now, and I'm like, ew. Ugh. Yeah.
John Terry's just also not a great role model, just as a person.
I'm trying to think of who we even have still on the England team.
What, and Spurs?
No,
It's
well,
Saka.
we've got
Is
Kane,
Saka on the English team, Alex?
Winks.
Saka's gonna be apparently called up for the next.
Dude, Saka's
He
sick,
should
dude.
be. He's insane.
Saka's
We've
a.
got, let me see the English roster.
And do you
I
still
think-
have Kieran Trippier? He doesn't even play for Spurs anymore. Right?
Would Tierney be?
Yeah.
Is Tierney
Tierney
on
be-
the?
Is he Scottish or Irish?
Tierney, Scottish.
Scottish.
Kieran Trippier, he's English.
Is he
Okay.
on the England team?
Tierney, no, he plays for Scotland.
Oh, okay.
Probably one of their better
It's
players.
like how Gareth Bale
He's
plays for
amazing.
Wales.
Fuck Bale.
Wales, dude. Wales team. It's probably
Wales,
fucking
surprisingly, has actually been recently the second best after England. Like, Scotland's been shite.
Yeah, but imagine like we probably would have like, I don't want to say we would have won the World Cup last, but we lost to Croatia, I believe.
That
Who
was
won?
kinda-
Ended up winning? No, France won, right?
France.
Yeah, France won. We were in Montreal. Abby and I were in Montreal when France won the World Cup,
Yeah.
and like it was crazy
It was
how
amazing.
bad people were
Oh,
celebrating.
yeah, I forgot.
Yeah, because Quebec's like mostly French.
It was like the
Canadian.
day we were leaving, and we decided to like go get lunch, right? So like, we didn't even know that like it was for like the championship game was on, and then we just sit down outside, and all of a sudden people in the bar, like we notice it's on, people in the bar start going crazy, and then like 5 minutes
There's a
after the
parade.
win, we pay our bill, and like people are out in the streets parading, like people have like cars with smoke on the wheels. People are like
I've never
popping
seen this
confetti.
in my
It
life,
was
but there was like
wild.
in front of a church, there was literally like a nun celebrating.
There was a
like, she
group.
was like-
There was
Aw, I
a group
love
of
that.
nuns celebrating. It was
I
wild.
was like,
I was like,
oh my god.
this is like an awful day to leave. We could have had so
Yeah.
much fun today.
Well, the other thing is, it's like we just saw something that was like, if you weren't there that day, you would have never seen it.
Yeah, it was so random. We were outside like the main city too. We went to this park called Mont Royal.
Yeah.
It was cool.
That's how I was in Chicago when Germany won in 2014. That was outrageous.
Oh, you know what I love about those is like they show like the fans like, and it's like I love, and especially in England when like big World Cup games like that, and they show like the bars, and then they show the reactions. Like I love
Yeah.
watching that.
Yeah.
That's kind of like what we were talking about earlier, like the fan experience. But
Yeah, the fan culture is just unreal in Europe.
Mhm.
Like in almost every country, there's just such a crazy fan culture. Even in countries that suck, like as in on the national level.
Ireland
They're
sucks,
fans.
but
Yeah, Ireland's one of those countries. They have had some great players like Robbie Keane and Roy Keane and David O'Leary. But like
I
as
love
a,
Robbie.
Robbie,
Keane.
Robbie
He was
might.
my childhood hero.
Robbie Keane is cool, except for that he played for Spurs.
I
But
don't
he's
And
know
dope.
then he went
if,
to Liverpool.
Huh?
And then he
Oh,
went to
no.
Liverpool.
Yeah, he did. Didn't he play for Celtic too?
Yeah.
Yeah, see, that's dope. I like Celtic.
Yeah,
Robbie
Celtics,
Keane was literally my like childhood hero. Like that's so funny that you mentioned that. Like I remember having like email passwords like Robbie Keane 10. Like,
Yeah, I always remember him as being a
I
legend
changed
for
it so no one
Leeds.
tried to hack me. Maybe I
Yeah.
changed it. I don't know.
But yeah, they're like one of those teams. Like they just Scotland too. They've had great players too, like Kenny Dalglish
Oh
or
god.
fucking like Tierney right now, or like Scott Brown. Scott Brown's pretty good, but he fucking still can't. Like as a national team. And who else have they had? Dennis Law.
By the
They've
way,
had great players, but
Mm.
they suck.
is
as a team.
Aubameyang on England's national team?
No, he's technically
Nah.
he could
I don't
play for
really.
France, but he plays for
Oh,
Gabon.
France.
He plays
Well,
for
that
Gabon.
actually probably makes sense because he's probably their best player by like a long shot.
Hugo Lloris. Talking about France?
No, Gabon.
Yeah.
Oh.
For Gabon. Yeah, I don't know why he played for Gabon. I feel like he could actually keep up with the French team and be nasty there too.
That probably makes sense. Although, would he even start on France national team? Because I feel like
France-
they're kind of nasty.
I still think he
Here and
would.
there, probably.
Yes. I don't have a problem with Lloris either. I think he's a pretty good goalkeeper. I don't hate most Tottenham players. I just hate the
He's
club.
great.
Dude, Mbappe is gonna end up being the best player in the world in
Like
probably
Drake.
like 2 or 3
Oh.
years. Mbappe's
heard
nasty.
it
He's
first.
amazing. He's so much fun to watch.
Yeah, Mbappe is insane, dude.
Same thing with Holland. Holland's gonna be up there. I hope
Yeah,
he stays.
Holland's really good as well.
I
The
really
Olympics should be interesting this year.
actually.
I prefer the World Cup.
Do you think? Wait. So this summer is gonna be the Euros. Do you think England's gonna win, Celia? Or what place do you think they'll make it to?
I think we have a chance. I think
France.
last huge I feel like last huge international tournament was the World Cup.
Yeah, Olympics.
And we were in the quarterfinals.
Sven, didn't you say Belgium's
Semifinals.
gonna be really good?
What?
Always rate Belgium number one, but
Belgium's always been kind of good, you know, like
they've
they've
good-
always had, you know, just a very strong squad, but like no one really realizes it until like 4 games into tournament play. I think who do we still have? We still have Gary Southgate as our manager.
Gareth Southgate, yeah.
I think that needs to change. But obviously we're not going to do that now.
Southgate's not that bad, though.
those guys.
Anything's better than when you guys had Roy Hodgson. Fuck that guy.
I liked him.
Losing to Iceland, what the fuck? And they literally hired some guy who got fired as Liverpool manager. That phase, like, yeah, we'll take him.
Was he ever? No, he never did anything with Newcastle. I don't know who I'm thinking of. I feel like they look alike.
Newcastle has Steve Bruce as their manager. He's also shit.
Bruce.
Steve Bruce.
Bruce. Hello, my name's Bruce.
He's one of those like Chav managers, like Chris Wilder from Sheffield.
That's who I
United.
picture as the English manager.
Yeah.
Dude, I literally
Or,
picture
from
Steve
years ago.
Bruce. Steve Bruce in like a studio apartment, like a rundown one.
Ooh, random question for you guys. Any of you guys watch Ted Lasso?
I don't
No.
actually.
Oh my God, you have to. It's on Apple TV. I don't know if you have Apple TV, but it's with Jason Sudeikis, and it's just so good. It's funny. It's like heartwarming. It's about an American football coach that gets like hired to be a English football coach, and he just basically a woman gets divorced from her husband because he like cheats on her, and he owns a football club in England, and she gets the football team, which is like his number one love, which is like my dad, and so she gets the football team in the divorce. So she basically, as revenge, like hires Ted Lasso, an American football coach, to like run it into the ground because he doesn't know shit, and it just ends up being just like this crazy like journey of stuff. It's a really cool like idea, but
Damn.
I like that.
everyone out there should watch Ted Lasso.
Wait, is that a show?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'll check it out.
But go on YouTube and type in Ted Lasso like NBC. They did a bunch of sports campaigns,
Yeah.
He's so funny with it.
Yeah, I love Jason Sudeikis.
I love him so much. Like I would marry him in a heartbeat.
Have you seen Celia? Have you seen Green Street Hooligans? I feel like you must have seen that.
No.
Oh, what the fuck?
Is that
That's like a
what's the
great
movie?
movie about like hooligan like culture in British football, and then also like journalists are like a big aspect of that game because the hooligans are
Wow.
like, oh, he's a fucking journo, like they try to like go after them for reporting on like the hooliganism, but
Yeah.
it's pretty sick.
I can't believe my dad's never taught. Maybe I'll go home and watch that with my dad later.
You got to check it out. And then there's like
Yeah.
another one I can't think of, but it's about fans of the club Tranmere Rovers, which is like one of the shitty suburban
Oh yeah.
Liverpool areas. So like that one I forget what it's called, but it's actually the club that Mike Dean, the infamous ref, supports. So you know Mike
Okay.
Dean, the one who
Wait,
like
so
Man
it's an old
United
movie.
thinks
It's like
fucks them over.
it's like over 20 years old. I think it's called Green Street, but there's one that says Green Street Hooligans,
It's
right?
the same movie.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is a British American independent film. Okay,
Yeah.
cool. I'll watch that with my dad if he hasn't already seen it.
Yeah,
All
it's
right,
about
so-
West Ham.
At the end of this, are we done here?
Yeah.
We should get into the Super League.
Yeah, we should get into Super.
Yeah.
All right. So let's talk about this debacle. Sven, you want to start us off?
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, the Super League. I just recently did like a whole article on this.
Is that your Suffolk Journal article?
No, that's just like a New York Times one,
Oh,
Yeah,
okay.
that was a New York Times one.
which
It looks good.
Oh,
I
wait,
interviewed-
you have one for the Suffolk Journal, don't you?
yeah, I do. And Celia's interviewed in it actually.
Here, let me pull that.
And my dad.
Dad, Andy too actually.
I just really like that image from the Times, but keep talking. I'll pull that up.
Yeah. So basically, for all of you viewers who don't follow soccer or don't already know, so the Super League essentially was this proposed football competition or soccer competition featuring Europe's top 20 professional clubs. It was something that was actually kind of in the making since like 2009. So they were like a lot of these basically big rich owners of these clubs. Like the main guy behind it was Florentino Perez from Real Madrid. They basically thought that the Champions League like wasn't competitive enough because oftentimes a smaller club will play a bigger club because that's kind of how it works. Like they get the chance to be better, but he was like, no, 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 like it can't be like that. We need these big clubs that they can't get relegated or promoted. They just always play each other because this is what the top tier football is right now.
That
Like
sounds
they-
like the opposite of competitive to me. but-
Yeah, he's like it's not fair because they're always gonna smoke a small team, which isn't always true as you could see past games. But so he's like, yeah, UEFA didn't make enough effort to ensure these teams played each other often enough. Like he would hope that he pushed for a breakaway competition featuring Europe's traditional powerhouses, as he called them, but it's basically just the most valuable clubs.
Yeah.
'Cause not all of them have history like Spurs. So, and then the next thing he said is it's going to be a league which guarantees the best will always play the best. So he's basically trying to do like almost like an NFL for European soccer. Like he's going to get these 20 big clubs that can't get promoted or relegated. They're already in the top league. 12 of them were going to be like permanent members, and then like the last 8, I guess, are going to be like
Invited.
sorry, yeah. They were going to be yeah, exactly, invited. They can get promoted from the respective 5 big leagues like Premier League, Bundesliga.
Wait. The last 8 can? Explain
Yeah, I
that to me,
believe
'cause how does
8.
that work technically? Because
Well,
could
the
this
whole
change over time? Like I don't
the
get
just
it.
crazy thing about the Super League is that there is no relegation or promotion like the Premier League and the Champions League in a way. I'm
Yeah.
pretty sure from
Is
what
it-
I heard on April 19th, which is the day the news broke, that they were going to be inviting certain teams every different year, like based on their liking, honestly, like who they thought were good enough to play.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, what I
Thanks.
saw it as was it was really massacring the Premier League and La Liga, and then it actually set Bundesliga up to be like the main competition outside of the Super League.
So
Yeah,
or
they
like
saved most of football.
Bayern and Dortmund to join, and they said no.
Yeah, I'm gonna fucking shit on Stan Kroenke pretty soon, but I'll wait.
Yeah, because I was gonna say, here's the thing though. Basically, what this was essentially it was independent from FIFA and UEFA, and it was criticized almost universally by like former players, like commentators, like Jamie Carragher, Gary Neville. They were like shitting all over it. Wenger, our legendary coach at Arsenal, he was like, I predicted something like this would happen.
Venga.
it's getting too elitist and stuff. And then like even like politicians like Boris Johnson's were like, no, this is wrong for like the sport. Like almost everybody opposed it.
Yeah.
And
Gary Lineker.
it was a bunch of rich owners like Stan Kroenke, John Henry,
Joe
Florentino
Lewis.
Perez, Andrea Agnelli from Juventus, because it was only Italian, Spanish, and English clubs too. Like French and German clubs didn't even participate, and they tried to get like PSG, Bayern,
PSG
Dortmund.
didn't participate.
I mean, Bayern Munich, they're the defending champions.
Yeah, exactly. The
Like,
champions.
and they're not in that? That
Well,
seems
they
weird
didn't
to
want
me.
to. They're like, this is bullshit. And Dortmund is like completely against their values. And I'm actually surprised PSG didn't join because they're always in for the money. But I think they were against it as well because they like being able to win their league every year anyway. So
Can I
It's just-
start?
lose
Or
other
actually, you can go for it. You can go for it.
Well, go for it.
Okay, all right. So, what I first want to say is it's pretty obvious that this was a money grab, especially from someone's perspective who, like, I'm now an Arsenal fan, and, like, from my perspective, Stan Kroenke has never really given a fuck how good the club is. All he actually cares about is keeping a constant and steady stream of revenue that can go into his pocket. And I think what the Super League showed was some of the owners that don't really care about competition and just want to line their pockets. Because at the end of the day, if they're in the Super League, you're not going to have to worry about the rest of the competition because no one's going to watch it because they want to see the big name clubs.
and it's a way to get the
Strictly a money move. It's a monopoly on the game.
I hate Stan Kroenke too. I just want to make that clear.
Yeah.
Well, my dad has a
Kroenke
huge
out.
problem with Joe Lewis and Daniel Levy, who are the two. I always thought that Daniel Levy was Tottenham's owner, but Joe Lewis is a billionaire,
Yeah.
and he's the same thing. I mean, he clearly we don't care about fucking winning trophies. Our
Yeah.
fans do, and our players do, and our
Kroenke doesn't
coaches
either.
kind of do, but they're not giving. If you have billions and billions of dollars and you want to be part of the Super League, can you get us a fucking like decent squad, please? Like it's
Yeah.
ridiculous. And John Henry really made me laugh because Charlie, do you remember that one day in class? Our professor, for everyone listening, he's a big, journalism newspaper guy, and he obviously knows him as the owner of the Boston Globe and the Red Sox.
Yeah.
He was like, I lose sleep at night thinking about how much money that John Henry has. And I love that quote from him.
Yeah.
And it's disgusting how they want to like just throw away people's heritage, and what was another word, like heritage and just their
Traditions.
history. I mean, it's so sad. I mean, some clubs have more than others. I feel as my club is very like historic over.
You guys have the Audi Cup. What are you talking about?
Historic of winning, a single Premier League.
Turbo Cup finalists. Woo!
Yeah, you guys have a cup named after an energy.
they have the fucking
Fucking
Audi Cup,
energy
bro.
drink. No, our last trophy was in 2008. Like, come on. And then that's another thing we need to talk about
Way
is,
back when.
which I don't like to talk about. This is probably like making you happy, but to call it like Europe's most elite. What right does Tottenham have to be in that?
Well, the other
Honestly.
thing is, as
Honestly,
Arsenal
what right
fans,
does Arsenal have to
Yeah,
be in
10
at the
It-
moment?
Exactly. It's based off
Right.
money and not
It's
merit.
based off of I wrote this in my article. It's based off of like the most valuable clubs from 2020
Mhm.
that were willing to join. Because obviously Bayern's like up there, but they were like not, and PSG they were like against
Yeah.
it. But yeah, it's basically this squad of rich owners who all know each other, like Florentino Perez, Andrea Agnelli, Kroenke, John Henry, all those fucks.
They don't give a
That's
shit
basically
about
what
the
it
fans.
is.
And
They
that's
just-
why it was such an issue. It was, first of all, I would love to know if this was to like somewhat pursue, what the fuck are they going to do with TV rights?
Mhm.
But the fans, I mean, did you not like it? That was probably one of the most quickest responses and outroars that I've seen. And everyone, I think you wrote it in your article, at least in the last decade or two.
Yeah,
Thanks,
I thought it was cool though because it showed how much power the fans really still have in like the European
I think they're the
football
most
world.
passionate fans. Honestly.
Yeah, because they literally were like protesting in the streets, and they got like politicians and major public figures and celebrities all to condemn it. and then that finally got these clubs. It was because I think it was also a way for like the Big Six, quote unquote, to stay relevant when the Big Six hasn't really been a thing for the past few years because Leicester's like better than Arsenal and
Yeah.
Tottenham.
There is one
Yeah.
point to be made here that I do agree with the owners on, though, is like, how many West Brom fans are there? There's like probably not that many.
There's more
Like,
than you think.
there
There's
is
yeah.
a fair
West Ham is a
case.
very passionate club.
There is a fair case that they should make to UEFA. Our teams generate more revenue for the sport, therefore we should have more access to like the capital that's generated. Pretty much is what I'm.
But like, what aspect of like is it obviously one team can't be making the same amount as the other team. Like you can't tell me that West Brom is making the same as Man City.
Well, apparently that's one of the hardest sticking points that they had to like disagree with UEFA on, is like they thought that they were locked out of revenues to the degree that they actually contributed to the viewership of the sport, from what I took away from it.
But here's
I get
the other thing
that.
with
That's
that,
the
though.
concept. It's a good concept. It's not even a good concept. It's a concept. Which
it's a good concept because if you think about it, if you want to keep them at the table,
I understand it, but at the same time, it's just that. It's a concept. That's
Here's the outrageous
who knows
thing.
how
they can do that. They can do that. But
here's
also,
the thing, though. Yeah, what were you gonna say?
I was just gonna say they can do that, but a lot of that revenue also comes from their fans. Some of them are fans that are new to the sport and bandwagons, but those fans that have, like my father, that has been a lifelong Tottenham fan for 60 years, and me for 22 years, because of my heritage, I consider it a part of. It's in my blood, and you're gonna lose that part of your franchise.
Oh, I agree with the Super League, but I'm just saying when you're negotiating inside of the Premier League or like at La Liga, there should be some negotiation that goes on between them and UEFA that actually tries to cut them into more of the revenue source. If they're actually producing more viewership, I think that they should get a higher percentage of the revenue.
Yeah, but the thing
at least
is,
they should argue for it, and UEFA should concede a bit to that.
The thing with that, though, is it changes over the time, though, because like this Big Six thing is a relatively recent thing. Like if you look in like 15 years ago, like Newcastle was one of the biggest clubs in Europe, and like Leeds was bigger back in like the late 90s, Blackburn, Blackpool, and then like over in Germany, Hamburg is historically always a big club. Like in Italy, I mean Napoli's getting good again, but they were the team that had fucking Maradona back in the day. Like it switches all the time who has the most money, and then you can get teams like Man City or PSG. Like in France, the big teams were always Lyon and Marseille. Then Monaco had their years, and then this fucking government literally bought PSG, like the Qatari government, I think, or the UAE government with their oil money, and then all of a sudden they can buy whatever player they want. They bought fucking Neymar for like 105 million.
The other thing I think I should bring up too is I'm not trying to like defend the owners in their decisions and what they do, because I think the Super League was a stupid like idea and like in the way it was implemented. But here's what I also think, too. UEFA's trying to pitch it to the fans like they're the saviors of the sport. When you actually think about it, like, prior to the Super League, like, Sky News and the subscription services that were offered were already pulling money out of fans' pockets. And, like, ticket prices were already going up in the stadium. So how much did UEFA actually give a fuck about fans, and how much are they actually taking advantage of the situation as it's played out? I'm not like, the Super League obviously was the worst of two evils, but are we just defending like the one that's less worse or the one that's good? You know what I mean? Like,
all right, well,
also,
is there truth to that?
If UEFA, and here's the thing though, I want to get this point real quick. If UEFA and FIFA really gave a fuck about fans and like giving back, they wouldn't have the World Cup in countries like Qatar and the UEFA Europa League final in countries like Azerbaijan that don't give a fuck about human rights and have like slave labor build their stadiums and shit. They wouldn't do that. They just care about money as well. Like they're not the defenders of the Super League thing as they try to.
That's why I actually thought it was comical how like people are defending UEFA. It's not UEFA you have to stand for. It's your club and like your club's history.
Yeah,
UEFA had just as many problems before. Like fans were pissed at UEFA always.
And
so
FIFA
let's
is one
not
of the
forget
most corrupt things on this planet to me.
Yeah, like Sepp Blatter, that guy was stealing.
Oh my God, it's awful. Yeah, that was just my main thing with it is my history, my heritage being possibly being taken away from me.
Yeah.
There was one point where they were like, oh, like, because they wanted this Super League to be able to, you know, play with midweek so they can still participate in their domestic leagues. And then the leagues came out and said, fuck no, you're not. And then my dad was concerned about, he was like, if I'm not going to be in the Premier League, English Premier League, like, fuck this Super League. Like, I don't care if I get to play Real Madrid every 3 weeks or every 4 weeks.
Yeah.
Like, that's not what I care about.
From like an Arsenal's fan perspective, I'm sure you agree, Alex, is like, we're going to fucking lose every week is what I'm thinking.
Yeah, it's going to be even worse than it is.
Like my dog's name is Luca after Luka Modric, so I don't need that PTSD right now, seeing him every 4 weeks. So.
Modric washed up.
You should have named your dog Sol Campbell, no?
Oh my God. I should. That's why you don't name animals after athletes unless it's like a Brady or something. Even, but then, like, he did it too.
Imagine naming your dog Sol Campbell and it runs away and like an Arsenal family takes it in.
What a great metaphor.
Right.
That's why I'll never name my dog Olivier Giroud, because he'll run off to some Chelsea fox.
Wait, I'm trying to think of a good like dog name in terms of players. Rooney. Neymar.
But I think it's good like that the Premier League was saved. And same with like La Liga and what was the other one? Is it
Serie A?
Serie A.
Yeah, the Italian league.
Yeah. My roommate was pissed about that too. He was because both my roommates are from Italy. They're like just in America to study, and I think they're both going back to Italy. But like he was talking in Italian, and I could hear him. He was like, "Superliga bullshit," and then he was like, "This is fucking shit," and he was like, "Serie A is gonna be like destroyed from this." And I mean,
he probably supports a team that's not Inter AC.
I think he's Juventus fan.
Oh, he likes Juventus, really? I've heard they were like one of the only clubs who were fine with Super League because they're doing so shit right now.
They're like, we want to come to the party.
Well, he's still mad about it.
The cafe I go to, Capital Coffee House, like most of them support like Napoli, and they were fucking pissed. They were like, Super League is bullshit.
I love that. Where's that?
That's over, like, it's right, like, next to Sawyer, pretty much, on that corner. Like, the corner where it's always wicked windy by the State House.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
The thing that was interesting about... I've never actually seen Premier League team fan bases, like, come together as much as they did to just reject the ownership decision.
Never.
And that's,
Not
like,
my
why
lifetime.
I was like, all right, you guys fucked up. You know you fucked up. Now change it.
Yeah.
Not in my lifetime. I can't remember anything like this ever.
No, I agree.
It's so built into like the way of life and culture there. Like how can you just permanently remove them from the league they've always been in?
You can't.
No.
I mean, you can try.
Yeah.
The biggest problem I actually think you mentioned too was the fact that it's anti-competition. It's not like letting new teams get promoted and then some get relegated. It's like these teams will be in here no matter how trash or good they are. It is just going to be the way it is because they generate revenue. Yeah. And that's like why the idea was flawed from the beginning. In American sports, it works better because like in the NFL or the MLB, it's also like you have one country involved, but it's like it is kind of anti-competition in the sense that like there isn't these different leagues that compete to try and like get better or worse.
There's
like
not the like magic of relegation.
Yeah,
or winning the league based off truly how good you do like over the year, you know.
To be fair, I actually think the European system is more complex and actually advanced than the American like sports system. Because I like the prospect of relegation. You actually have to fight to maintain your spot. I think that's actually a really good idea, but we don't do it in America.
That's what I love the most. Not the most, but that's one of the things that I really like. You know, it stands out to me, and that's why I'm so passionate about this sport. Like I love American sports, but it's just not the same. And also, like they treat their clubs like franchises, or they treat their franchises like businesses.
It's like a lifestyle.
I get that. You have to do that sometimes, but like it's more than just a business. It should be to these English soccer fans and everyone else. Yeah, it's a culture.
It's
Like,
like even
literally,
like the like firms and stuff. Like you don't really have stuff like gangs that just follow around teams in America,
or
really.
like LeBron James like buying up a slice of your fucking team, or like,
Yeah.
Yeah.
like that
Yeah.
just doesn't
You know, it's
happen.
also like I feel bad for English citizens too because I feel like so many of the clubs get bought out by Americans and then Middle Eastern oil tycoons.
Yeah,
So
that's
like
like it. Or
there's
airline.
so little
Yeah.
representation of actually like English people that own these clubs anymore.
And when they
They're
do, it's
very
like Mike
disconnected.
Ashley.
Yeah, but the
It's
thing
very
is,
disconnected from the
when
culture.
these outside people buy in, do they actually care about developing a
No,
winning team?
No, they
No.
just care about revenues.
no,
I,
not really.
I would
No.
argue
Like
Cronky
Cronky,
Cronky is
Cronky's a
building a
fucking
winning
beast.
team. I would do.
No, he's
He
not.
might be a shitty guy, yeah, but he is
No, he's
building
not.
a strong arsenal. I
Dude,
think he
I'm
is.
telling
I
you
disagree.
right now,
Arteta's
Stan
dope, bro.
Kroenke, Josh Kroenke might give a fuck, but
Saka's
Stan
dope.
Kroenke,
Tierney's
this,
dope.
They give like a little bit of like a fuck about their like reps. And then like when they first come in and buy the club,
Yeah.
they're like, "Oh, we have all these plans. We have all this like great ideas. I'm going to bring in all these guys." And then it just slowly fades away.
you know how
Yeah.
I know Stan
Yeah,
Kroenke
we'll
doesn't
have
give
to
a fuck?
see.
I read a piece last week, and it was Stan Kroenke said, "We're trying to build bridges with the fan base." Bitch, you've been here for 10 years. If you can't build those bridges already, get the fuck out. Sell
Yeah.
your team.
Yeah.
I
Okay?
agree.
You've had 10 years to develop a rapport with your fan base. They all fucking hate you and want you to resign.
There's 3,000 of them in the streets. Being like, Stan needs to fuck off. Yeah, it's
That
That
pretty
was
funny.
cool though to see the fans like in the streets like rallying.
Yeah.
So that was pretty cool to see.
It shows you how much they really care.
Mhm.
Yeah.
That's the thing that's cool. This is what I've always loved because I grew up mainly watching German soccer from my dad, and then I got more into English from some of my friends who lived in England. They got
Mhm.
me into Arsenal when I was younger. So, but like in Germany, like there's laws actually with like who can own a club and stuff. Like I think there's like laws against like businesses and companies and governments from buying too much of a club. And Dortmund actually, their fans have shares in their own club, which is pretty
They
sick.
do, they
My
do
dad
have
has
Green
shares
Bay
in Tottenham.
Packers. Oh, that's cool.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that is cool.
They
But
do
yeah,
have,
it's like
My
Green Bay-
granddad has season tickets as well. Yeah.
in the NFL, the Green Bay Packers are like I'm pretty sure the only team that do that.
Yeah. Yeah, that's like the one that comes to mind for me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I like that. I actually think it's a pretty cool model.
I just think it's cool when like for fans, it's more than just like a sport or a form of entertainment. It's like literally like a passion, lifestyle, and it's heritage and culture for them.
Oh, it's my father's first love. We always say it's like my Tottenham, probably my dog, me, my brother, and my mom. Like,
Nice list.
but we like doesn't even bother us. We're like, yeah, that's who he is. It's literally who he is.
Yeah.
It's in his makeup.
That's awesome.
Yeah. All right. Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson and Danny Garcia bought the XFL last year. That means there's going to be a third season of XFL, hopefully. And you know what Dwayne "The Rock" Johnson needs to do? He needs to talk to Roger Goodell and negotiate a deal in which the most losing NFL team competes against the most winning XFL team for not to be relegated. That should be a thing.
That's
That should be a thing.
interesting.
That is interesting.
That's very funny that you just
it
brought that
won't.
up.
Here's why I don't think it'll work. All right, I'm
No,
gonna.
it won't work, but one can hope.
The thing is, American sports aren't built like that because there's no prospect of relegation. Even the worst NFL team would probably demolish even the best XFL team because if you think about it, these are all the best college athletes. None of them. I mean, maybe the second tier end up in the XFL, but what are the odds
Well,
that
I mean,
even the
that's
second
the thing.
tier
That's
is
the thing
best
about
than
football,
first
right?
tier?
Because of the amount of turnover with like injuries, level of play. A lot of people who have pro level talent don't actually see pro fields. Like practice, there are practice team guys. You know how much practice team guys make in the NFL? $300K a year. Like those are good players. If they get
That's
coached
true.
up, someone to believe in them, and they get the
Maybe.
right facilities, they can become pro level players.
But the problem I have is like I feel like the alternative sports leagues or even second. Well, this would be the first time it would be a second league if they got that approved. But
Yeah.
like it's almost ostracized. Like no one watches the Canadian Football League. No one will watch the XFL. Like,
yeah, but Dwayne
it's
the
just
Rock
like-
Johnson.
But maybe they would.
Now that
maybe,
I
but
think
I
so.
highly doubt it because
know.
Americans are very dull sometimes.
I've seen some.
Yeah,
I've seen
we're
some
uncultured
XFL
swine.
highlights. I've seen some XFL highlights. Some of the plays are just brutal. It's a lot.
It's
of fun.
either you want to watch the best or you're a college football fan. That's pretty much how I view it because like there are so many mad college football fans, but like let's be real, the
XFL is
NFL
more fun to watch than college football.
College football is highly overrated in my perspective because if you want to watch the best, you're gonna watch the NFL.
I mean, I think though the college. Here's the thing though.
I like watching
college
Oklahoma
sports
play.
Well, I was gonna say real quick with college sports, there's two things. So college sports, I will say, sometimes has plays though that are just like crazy that you wouldn't see in the NFL really often, just
that can
because.
lull you to sleep.
Well, sometimes, but I think there's some outrageous shit you don't see. I'm not a huge college sports
I'm not gonna
fan.
lie, I'm kind of a pro snob. I don't actually want to.
Yeah, you're like the kind of people you just made fun of.
I'm a pro snob. I'm not gonna lie. Like I am that guy that like will
the people you just shit on. But like college sports have like outrageous like things you don't usually see often. But what I was gonna say is the thing with relegation and stuff is like college sports isn't a thing in Europe. Like you just go to playing in a club. There's just different tiers of clubs, and there's this whole system that doesn't exist here, and that's why our soccer system.
It's almost like our second.
But it's another topic.
It's almost like our second leagues are like college. Like you play up to get into the pros, but it's like you have your first Division 1, then Division 2, then Division.
Yeah, but it's different though because you can be playing for like a Division 4 team and still be going to high school and shit. And like I think until our system for soccer gets similar to that, we're gonna always be a little behind. But that's a whole another topic.
Yeah,
that's a good point.
Yeah,
I mean, like college sports are just more fast paced. The guys are younger, they're faster.
No, that's false. That's 100% false, but that's okay.
I don't know. I mean, that's the thing. I'm from the South. Like I live like
I'd love to see
college,
just an average D1 player play in the NFL. They get absolutely demolished.
I think
an average, like an average D1 player, but like they're in college.
Trevor Lawrence.
Those 4 years of development and growth to go into the NFL. You got to start somewhere.
The people at USC not like Clemson.
No. Clemson's okay. So Clemson are kind of like, okay, I feel bad using this word because it's like 2021. I don't want to say it, but like they're just they're like they're the preppy, like rich little kids. USC kids are the kids that like smash a fucking beer can on your head and like do a bunch of
I know what you mean. It's like
I mean, I have friends. I have friends from both schools. USC is the cool people school. Clemson are the rich, snobby nursing majors.
There is like a point to your argument, though, Celia, when you think about it, because here's like my perspective on it. All right, so you're a kid in college. All right, you haven't had your major payday. What are you doing every day? Hitting the gym as long as you can every day, trying to like gain knowledge from the playbook and like be as fast or as powerful as you can. Once you get into the pros, after your rookie contract expires, you get either a massive payday or you leave the league. And if you get that massive payday, the incentive to be as good as you once were declines. That's like the argument to be made for people who watch college sports, I think. But I still like NFL.
That's there, but it's not like always the case. But that's a good point. Yeah.
I would say the reason why.
And there's some people that want that payday.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. That's definitely there, but I think the reason why the level of play in the NFL is so amazing is once you become like a starting player and like you actually have the drive to play, your entire life is like you start eating better every single day. You get access to the best doctors, the best trainers. Like your entire life is just around getting better at that one sport.
I still like the NFL more. I want to make that clear.
Yeah.
Me too.
To me, it's more competitive. I don't actually enjoy watching college football for some reason. I can't really put words to it, but I don't find it that competitive.
Some games
if you're on the tailgate, it's a different story, but I'll only watch like a few final games.
Yeah, live college football.
To me,
I'll always watch Oklahoma and Bama play. That's a fun game to watch normally.
A lot of the time,
Bama and Clemson's usually good. In the past few years, Bama and LSU was this. No, Clemson won this past year against
Yeah.
The amount of run plays that are like in the offensive package, and then also how many points are scored a game. Those are like the two that I don't know. I've just never really found myself a huge fan of college football for some reason.
I was raised on NFL, so I agree.
Yeah.
But I can see why people like it.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Just, I'm not personally a fan.
Yeah. All right, so no Reddit today?
No, I don't think so. I actually had a few that were interesting, but
we are getting kind of late with the
we'll
time.
Just skip them. We'll skip them.
You guys are down. I don't want to go too long.
Yeah,
when I was on Josh and James's and Chris, their podcast, Best of Beantown, like I don't know if it's definitely not me. I'm sure you guys like have long ass podcasts, but we did ours for like 3 hours, and I'm like, I'm like, damn, this is long. I don't know how you guys do it.
Yeah.
Like I need a bathroom break.
Usually,
see, we try to not go over an hour and a half. We try to stick into an hour 15, just because I personally don't think people will listen to like over 2 hours of us or of anyone.
I don't think people listen to an hour and a half. People will just like, I put video chapters for that reason, that people can watch like 15, 10 minutes, things like that.
I like that you guys have the video. I think that's a cool little aspect.
Yeah.
Yeah. Right.
Yeah.
All right, I guess I'll wrap up the show then in that case. All right, so this concludes Straight No Chaser, episode 31. We'd like to thank our guest, Celia Balfour, for coming on and joining us in our discussion tonight.
Thanks for having me.
No problem. Thanks for coming on. All right, thanks for all you guys watching. Make sure to leave that like, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and follow us on Instagram, straightnochaser.ent. Tune in next week for more content coming out soon. And I hope you keep watching and supporting the channel. Thank you very much, guys.